Hi, beautiful. My name is Anes Mawutsa, and I am the founder of We Are Becoming. Today's guest is a qualified counselor, educator, facilitator, and founder of Modern Intimacy, which is a platform created to shine light on emotional safety education for sexual intercourse. For most people growing up, sex education didn't focus on consent, communicating desires, or emotional health in general. Today's guest is passionate about educating people on sex and emotional safety through her online resources as well as workshops. Join us today in welcoming the phenomenal Greer Alexandra to the Becoming series. Hi, Greer. How are you? How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I am well, thank you. Thank you so much for being willing to have this interview with us today. I suppose we can start off by, yeah, you just explaining what modern intimacy education is, how it came about, and the goal of your platform. Yes.
Great. Well, thank you so much for having me. So good to be here. So Modern Intimacy is my business, and it's called Modern Intimacy Education,
Okay.
and it is all about. I love educating about sex and emotional safety. So I've created a workbook and I've created a workshop just regarding sex and emotional safety. So
Okay.
it's like sex ed, but just
Mm-hmm.
not so much about physical safety and STIs and STDs, but more of the emotional side of sex, which
Emotional
I think,
safety.
yes,
Okay.
yeah.
And where did this idea come from, or how was it rooted? Yes.
Well, it came from, well, when I was growing up, I didn't have the best sex education. So it was mainly like condom on the banana and
Mm.
STIs and STDs, which was
Mm.
helpful, but like it wasn't about, I'm quite an emotional person,
Okay.
and quite like a thinker and quite a romantic as well. But there was never that education on how to communicate, how to say no, how to know if a partner's
Mm.
right for you, and all of that
Mm.
checking in.
Support.
And I found that it really affected how, like, the sex I was having and the partners that I chose. And it wasn't until, well, I guess some not so good sexual experiences that I realized something had to change and there was something missing. And that's when I found emotional safety. And I was just like, oh my gosh,
Um,
this needs to be taught, this needs to be cultivated. Like, I really want to create a platform where I can talk about it. And
mm,
then I did my studies and I got certified and all of that, and then
love
created modern intimacy
that.
education. So
Thank you
yeah.
so much. Thank you so much for that. I definitely see the importance of a platform like this, of a business like this, because a lot of us don't have this education on sex and emotions, and that's really what we want to be discussing today.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Awesome.
So, thank you so much for explaining what modern intimacy education is. I think it's so important. And I think a lot of us relate to that. We don't get taught about emotional safety, and a lot of us don't actually know what it means. So, yes, let's begin there. What is emotional safety when it comes to sex? Why is it important for us to know and to understand?
Yes, yeah, great question. Um, it's important. Well, emotional safety is, it's needed in every relationship. So it's needed in, let's say, like a parent-child relationship, a friendship, a work relationship. That sense of safety with another person. So feeling you can be
Yes.
yourself, that you can speak up about hard, issues that you're facing, or just that you feel safe in general. So when it
Yep.
comes to sex, you need to feel those things as well. And I'm surprised it hasn't been touched on earlier, like when I was growing up.
Yes.
But you need that
Yes.
sense, yeah, you need that sense of safety with another person. So
Mhm.
feeling, that you can be yourself and that you can speak up if the sexual situation isn't going to plan, or that you want to say no, that you feel that, you're not going to be persuaded into it, you're going to feel safe. So
Mm,
I feel like
mm,
it's absolutely paramount as well to feel that safety, not
definitely.
just about, and that emotion, just feeling safe with the person. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah,
And
I can
how does what?
elaborate. Did you? Oh, sorry. Go on.
Yes, please.
You go.
How does one cultivate emotional safety? How does one begin to, yeah.
To explore. Well, I think it starts off with themselves. So
Mhm.
because I've got my workbook here, because I've written the sex and emotional
Hey.
safety workbook.
Okay.
So I'm kind of
Lovely.
going off that as well. So I'm
Okay.
just going to change that chapter, because cultivating is really, I guess, getting to know your emotions and being okay with your emotions as well, like feeling
Mhm.
safe with yourself.
Okay.
And yeah, not being so, like, here I've got questions to ask yourself to cultivate some emotional safety. So
Yes.
what actions make me feel safe in my body? What keeps me rooted and balanced and secure in myself? And what can I do to make my home or room feel like a sanctuary? How can I enhance my sense of safety in all areas of my life? So really checking
Mm-hmm.
in and asking yourself questions
I
is
love
really
that.
creating that safety with yourself, and be okay that you're
That.
going to have emotions and all of that. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
I may be jumping ahead here, but one
Yeah.
thing you just said was being able to say no. And
Yeah.
a lot of women have told me their stories of where they felt like, they wanted to say no. They didn't want
Yeah.
to have sex, but they couldn't. They couldn't say no. So do you think that it's because of not having cultivated a sense of emotional safety between you and your partner that one doesn't say no when they want to say no?
Yeah, I think there's like a myriad of reasons of that. I think it's also for women in general. I feel like
Okay.
we have, like, growing up in a culture, I feel most women feel it's like a people pleasing, or the good girl. Like, they don't want to maybe
Mm,
disappoint. They don't want to let someone down as well. And they
mm-hmm.
kind of just want to go with the flow. And
Okay.
instead of really listening to themselves and what they want and feeling that they can speak up. And so
True.
with emotional safety, is cultivating with yourself, is actually feeling like practicing communicating and really
Yes.
understanding, what you want, and being okay to, put that people pleasing thing aside, and
Okay.
stand up for yourself. Yeah, but
Okay.
it's hard. Like,
Okay.
it is hard. I think harder for women to say no, especially
Yes.
in sexual situations. And also, there
Definitely.
hasn't been education about
Around
saying no,
it.
really.
Mm,
Yeah, on
mm.
emotional safety at all. So yeah,
Agreed. Agreed.
if
Agreed.
that makes sense.
Yes, it makes
Yeah.
so much sense. So I know you touched a bit on the questions that we should be asking ourselves, but the top, I don't know how many, maybe the top three that we
Yeah.
should be asking ourselves before engaging in sex,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and the kind of conversations that we should be having with our partners before
Yeah, for sure.
engaging in sex. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to point back to my workbook here just for the
Okay.
reference. So I've got this bit where it's like what checking in with yourself looks like. So when
Okay.
I teach emotional safety, when I talk about it, it's all about checking in with yourself and then checking in with the other
Yes.
person. So the
Okay.
checking with yourself is just so apparent. So it's really about, like, what do I want from this experience?
Okay.
How does this person make me feel?
Mm.
How do I feel mentally and emotionally right now? Is my body prepared for this experience? Are my emotions and mental health prepared for this experience? And
Mm.
can I communicate freely with this person? So these are like
Uh-huh.
simple questions, but I can go in depth in any of them if you like. But they're so, yeah, like, example, how do I feel mentally and emotionally right now? You could be going through a rough
Yes.
patch in your life,
Mhm.
and you might be thinking, oh, yeah, I really want to have this casual experience with someone. But are you really mentally prepared that that casual experience might not turn into a relationship, or they might
Mm.
not be as respectful as, like, someone would be if they were going to a monogamous relationship? Are you mentally
Yes.
okay with that? That
Yes.
kind of thing. So
Yeah.
you know what you're up for. And can you
Okay.
communicate with them about your expectations around this experience?
Okay.
So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And if your answer is no, so let's say your answer is no, I actually can't communicate freely with this person. How does
Yeah.
one then navigate the situation? So
Yeah,
maybe
I
it
think,
would be
yeah.
exiting. I'm not sure. You know.
Yeah, I would say exiting the situation, or just seeing, Well, yeah, if you feel that you don't feel comfortable with this person, that person causes you a bit of anxiety around communication and all of that, that probably isn't the healthiest option for you. You might feel attracted to them. You might feel like you want to have sex with them. But if you really tune into what's safe for you and what you need, you'll realize that you want to look after that part of you more. So it's really about focusing on what's safe for you. And I think the answer will come quite clearly.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you'll be excited.
That is so good. So good. So a lot of women feel the sense of guilt and shame after sexual encounters. And I wanted to find out, where is that rooted from? Why is it that a lot of women experience this?
Yeah. Well, women experience all this guilt and shame, I think, from society in general. Generations before us, also certain religious, if they grew up in a religious household. I even believe if you grew up in a household where your parents were sexually liberated and they were very like, yeah, have sex, we don't mind when you have sex, just have it safely, that person would still feel guilt and shame from a secondary source. So whether that's media or movies or anything like that, and that could still affect them. Even if their family system is all like, yeah, do what's best for you, they would still feel that guilt outside. So I feel like it's just in our society in general, especially more so for women. Like you see it in movies, like you see it everywhere. In books and all of that. So it's something, and it's something that it's just in our face pretty much every day as well. So it's being aware of it, I think, is knowing it's there and that we don't have to listen to those views, we don't have to carry that guilt and shame anymore.
True. And for a lot of women, there's also this link between sex or your sexual partners, your body count, let's say, and your self-worth. So how do we begin to kind of break that down, to understand that your body count does not equate to your worth, and to kind of redefine what sex is? And maybe I can ask this in a different way. What would you deem as a healthy perspective on sex, and how does
your husband cultivate that? I think I think it's about getting really clear first. Like, I guess someone really asks themselves, despite all that they've seen, through social media, through romantic movies, through porn even, what do they feel is true to them? Like, what kind of sexual experience do they really want to explore? Like, what, really lights them up? And I think it's a hard one because we're so conditioned as well. But it is realizing what feels safest to you. And I guess, I think it's a sorry, I can't answer that one as well because I feel like it's a complicated
Definitely. Definitely.
And
sorry, I put you on the spot, but
no, that's all good. But it takes time. It's one of those. I think it changes over from like your 20s into your 30s as well.
Fair.
Yeah.
Definitely very fair. And I suppose all things point back to safety. I really, really, really like that. Safety, the safety element. So for people that have experienced trauma when it comes to sex, or had any traumatic experience regarding sex, how do they then begin to enjoy intimacy again? After having gone through that.
Yeah, for sure. I think the most important thing is to get therapeutic help, whether that be, psychology or healing modalities or support system that can really help you move through that trauma, whether it's miscarriage, whether it's sexual trauma. And everyone's really different to how they respond to their trauma as well. So it's hard to say how someone will recover, but there's so many different alternatives and therapeutic treatments out there. And I think it's really about learning to trust yourself again and trusting the world, and even trusting, if it depends, if it was even trusting the opposite sex, because I feel, again, and a lot of forgiveness. There's a lot there, and I think it really depends on the person and the therapeutic treatments. But it's so possible, and it does start with even like as simple as learning emotional safety again, and really feeling safe with your own body, because a lot of trauma is very in the body. That's where trauma sits. So it's about really relearning your body and creating a new normal for yourself.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. It's so good. So good. Yeah. What are some of the boundaries that we can maybe begin to draw for ourselves to ensure that I know you've kind of answered this in different ways, I suppose, with the questions that we should go through, our emotional safeguards, but maybe some of the boundaries that we could set up in our lives to just navigate sex in a safer way, in a more emotional safe way.
That's a really good question. I think first getting to know what you really want from a sexual experience. So first being that, are you wanting casual sexual experiences? Are you wanting monogamous sexual experiences? What kind of people do you want to connect with? What does respect look like to you? So it's really about sort of building like what's, I guess, not your perfect experience, but what the experiences that you want. What does a respectful person look like to you? And and other boundaries I would say is making sure, I guess it's like having your deal breakers and making sure you're speaking to them. So deal breakers, if someone you met on a dating app, for example, and you met up and you think they're kind of expecting sex straight away. But for you actually want to get to know them a few more times before you have sex with them. So that could be communicating, actually, like, thanks, I'm flattered, but I'm not into this situation. I actually like to get to know people about three dates before. So it's really like speaking up and creating those boundaries for yourself as well. So it's really creating your safety net and having your safety toolbox. And knowing what you, I think it is, own a safety toolbox. And practicing communication, like that's a really big thing. To keep safe, you have to get good at communicating. And you don't have to love communicating, but you have to communicate. Like, it's going to feel scary for people that aren't used to it or weren't brought up with a lot of communication. But to have emotionally safe sex, communication is just the absolute key.
I love that. Love it so much. Thank you. So we got one question from our community, and it was, why are people now having sex with less emotions? Why has it become less intimate and intentional?
I think, I think it's like movies and TV shows and all of that. I think they've given us high expectations, and then we haven't had the education to back it up as well.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, we haven't had that education to even teach people how to be respectful, really. So we're expecting this Disneyland kind of love, but none of us have been taught how to even give that kind of, love or respect, really. So it falls short. And then I think people get disappointed, and then they start acting. I feel like people, when they get disappointed, then they might be like, oh, well, I'm just going to treat sex as no emotions. I'm not going to catch my feelings. I just want to, but no, it's one of those things where that creates not so nice experiences when people are having sex with less emotions. Doesn't mean you need to be fully emotionally connected with the person, but the emotional safety part is that communicating and checking in, and that just basic respect for another human that you're naked with.
Yes.
Sense.
That does make sense.
And I think that's just really, really important. And I don't somewhere along the line it's missed, and people, I feel like people are waking up to knowing that, you know, sex is an intimate thing and there needs to be change. But yeah, it's a hard one. Like and especially from if you're in your 20s and you go to your 30s, it's different to what you think sex is and all of that. So yeah. Does that answer? I can go more elaborate into that one.
Actually, I wanted to ask you, with what you said now, how has your perspective on sex and emotional safety changed between, you know, the years, over the years, you know, because you just mentioned the difference.
Yes, like in my 20s, I would say, because I didn't have good sex education. Like it was just, you know, about STDs and condom, the banana and stuff. And I kind of was like I didn't want to show my feelings, you know what I mean? Like I would act cool and I'd have these sexual encounters where they weren't connected. Like I felt a disconnect. I was almost like I did feel like putting my feelings out there or putting or communicating, because that seemed too uncool to communicate. And but then that just led me to be in situations that just were not good and were not beneficial to me at all. And it wasn't until like I went through quite a few not so nice situations that I realized that this isn't how I want to have, like, I don't know what's happening, and this isn't how I want to have sex. This is just not how I want to experience it. And I'm quite a romantic as well, so it was just not fitting what I wanted. So I seek counselling, and I, you know, went on my own, I guess, little healing journey to really reconnect to like what I wanted and myself. And that's when I came across emotional safety. And
that's beautiful.
And then that's when I realized, I want to communicate. I want to be with a partner that wants to communicate and that respects me, and that's where a massive shift happened. And it took me quite a few years to really navigate that. But when I started really communicating, that's when I had really loving partners. And brought that in. And putting my boundaries up and saying no and all of that. So so it did change. So when I was 20 to now, I'm in a really loving relationship and having really respectful sex, and that feels so nourishing to me. And it's all because of emotional safety and cultivating that for myself first.
I love that. I really love that. Thank you so much for sharing. I think what I'm getting from this entire conversation is that self-awareness is so key in everything in life, but especially when it comes to sex, especially when it comes to these encounters. You know, in the society we live in, I also, I suppose I relate, because there's no education on this, you know, there's no one that's, you know, and I grew up in a Christian household as well. So it's kind of like, don't have sex until marriage. But that's about it. Like, just wait, just wait. And then, you know, when it's time, and, you know, you'll have it. But it's so important to begin to have these conversations even now. And different people have different views. And so, you know, I really want, and just even the goal of this episode is to encourage people to start having these conversations. Even if you aren't sexually active, even if you're waiting, like, this is an important conversation to have. Yes. So even just ending this off, what are words of advice you'd give to, I guess, anyone? So those that are waiting and those that are already having sex, your last, like, gems of wisdom that we can just hold and carry with us throughout our lives.
Okay, sure. I think, just let me think of a good one. I think it's about really being true to yourself. It's not letting the outside opinions of your friends, even family, get in the way of what you really want and desire for like a sexual relationship, and know that it's not going to pass you by. So you know, it's important to just trust your journey. I think that's a really big thing, and know that what you want is seeking you. I always like, whatever you want is seeking you as well. And to create that self-awareness and that self-care, because you're the only one that you're going to be with the rest of your life. So really looking after yourself. and being a role model for others as well, to know that a healthy sex exists, because it really does. So I hope that helps. But
Brilliant.
Healthy sex does exist, and there's so many emotionally safe people out there, and I guess I just want to really elaborate that too, because when you're going through maybe healing from sexual assault or trauma or anything like that, you can feel like you're the only one and there's no good people left and all of that stuff, but you will get there, and you'll be very healing. So
I love that. Love that. So good. So good. All right. That brings us to the end of our interview. I don't know if there's any other lasting thoughts that you have, but I really love what you said at the end here, that it does exist. Emotionally safe people do exist. And it's tough when your experiences kind of, contradict that,
Yes. So tough.
But we take it in our stride, and we continue to heal. We continue to fight for ourselves, and seek the help and support that we need to make it through. So thank you so,
you said it beautifully. Much. Yeah, you said it beautifully. That's right on point. Yeah.
So I deeply appreciate you being on the show with us. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. I will direct everyone to your pages, so you can just let us know where we can find you.
Yes. Sure.
On Instagram, on socials.
Instagram, so it's at modern_intimacy education. Yes. And then I've got I'm just brought out this book, so it's Let's Talk Sex and Emotional Safety.
So good.
So it's all about emotional safety and cultivating it, and in your relationship. It's really good for partners as well to read together in the bedroom and everything like that. And you can find me at modernintimacy.com as well. So
phenomenal. All right, thank you so much, Greer.
It's lovely connecting with you. And a great initiative you have going. So,
Thank you. All right. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
See you later.
Hey there, gorgeous. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Becoming series. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel. Like, share, repost, and stay tuned. For more information on who we are, visit www.wearebecoming.co.za. You can also catch us on Instagram at becominginitiative_ and on Facebook at We Are Becoming. Keep queening.